Hi there, it's Rachel Ehring, host of the Top Music Piano podcast, and I'm just popping in to give a very special invitation to those of you living in Southern California. I'll be hosting an in-person coffee meetup for Top Music members and listeners of the podcast. We will be meeting at a coffee shop in Irvine, California on Friday, June 19th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is a chance for you to meet other top music piano teachers and connect in person over coffee and I'm sure great conversations. You do not have to be a Top Music Pro member to join us, but if you are, coffee is on us. So if you live in Orange County, be sure to go to topmusic.co/local to RSVP, and I hope to see you there.
For me, if I feel like I'm being underpaid or not being paid fairly, I actually start to resent the work that I'm doing. But that's not fair, right? If you set your own rates, then you should set a rate that doesn't make you feel that way, because that comes across to people, I think. And then that's actually going to hurt your business in the long term if it's turning people away. So I think if you also just feel more stable in what you're charging, then your attitude towards things can improve. And then if you're actually providing a better customer service experience because you're not overwhelmed, you're not burnt out, and you're not feeling underpaid, then again, that's going to turn into more success.
Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello there, beautiful piano teachers. I hope that you are doing well today, and I want you to know how much I appreciate you being here today. If you have ever felt like you have 500 tabs open in your brain just for your teaching business and wish that someone could come alongside and take maybe half of those over for you, you're going to want to listen to today's episode. My guest, Adella Carlson, is a virtual assistant specifically for musicians, and her job is to take on all of those tasks, close the tabs that overwhelm us, and keep us from showing up as our best selves for our students. And if you are already thinking, I could never afford to hire someone to help out in my business, we're going to talk about that too today. And she also gives some really practical advice at the end of the episode of things that you can do yourself to be more organized and close some of those open tabs. So here's a little bit about Adella. Clarinetist Adella Carlson is the founder of The Musician's Assistant, a virtual assistant service that supports entrepreneurial musicians and arts organizations building sustainable long-term careers in classical music. Through her work, Adella serves as an operations and administrative partner for music businesses, helping clients streamline systems, manage projects, increase revenue, and create space for more meaningful artistic work of their own. Alongside her work in arts administration, Adella maintains an active performing career as a soloist, chamber musician, and orchestral clarinetist throughout North Carolina. She's a founding member of the Chaos Incarnate Clarinet Trio and a section player in the Piedmont Wind Symphony, as well as subbing regularly with various regional orchestras. Adella holds a Master of Music in Clarinet Performance from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and a Bachelor of Arts in Music Performance from Eastern Connecticut State University. Her primary clarinet teachers are Chris Howard, Andy Hudson, and Anthony Taylor. Here's my chat with Adella. Hi, Adella. Welcome to the show. I'm really excited to get to talk to you today about a topic that we've never talked about, I don't think, on the podcast. So this is really exciting. Before we get into it, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name is Adella Carlson. I'm a clarinetist and virtual assistant for musicians. I also own a small online clarinet and piano lesson studio. So I do some playing, some performing, some teaching, and then a lot of arts administration type of work. So all of those elements together make up my overall business, which is Adella Carlson Studios.
Amazing. So I think you're my second clarinet player I've had on the podcast. So this is exciting, but we're not going to talk too much about clarinet today. We're going to talk about your role as a virtual assistant for music teachers. That's going to be our primary focus. But before we do that, I do want to hear just a little bit of your musical background. You can share about your clarinet background or how you got to where you are today as far as offering these services to other music teachers?
Yeah, they definitely overlap. I grew up in Western Connecticut, and then I went to college at Eastern Connecticut State University. And for those 4 years, I just absolutely loved college. I really thought that I would just go straight on, get the get the DMA, get a college teaching job, teaching clarinet. But that started to shift a little bit in the spring of 2020, which was when I graduated college. So we were sent home from campus early. I graduated on my couch because of the COVID pandemic. And then I actually ended up deferring grad school for a year to try and wait out the worst of the pandemic at home. And during that time, I started teaching online and started my online studio. And I mean, really at the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I was definitely undercharging by a lot. But I learned a lot. And that was really the start of like having my own online music business. So then in 2021, I moved to North Carolina to get my master's at UNC Greensboro, which I finished in 2023. And at some point over the course of those 2 years, I just started to get really burned out on being a student and being in academia, and just kind of decided after that I was done, like no more degrees, no more school. And so when I graduated, I took a job as an administrative assistant in a school of music, but ended up really unhappy in that role and just even more kind of disillusioned with being in higher ed. And so that was when I decided I needed to figure out something else. And in my search for new roles, because I was an admin assistant, I was getting a lot of job postings pushed at me for virtual assistant positions. And I didn't want to leave music, so I wasn't really interested specifically in any of those. But that was sort of where I had the idea that I could just make the job that I wanted that I wasn't finding, which was basically that virtual assistant services, but specifically for musicians and music businesses. So that's when I created the Musician's Assistant, which I launched in January of 2025 and is now pretty much my full-time job today.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm going to go off script a little bit. I do want to ask you about online teaching because at Top Music, we've been doing a series on online teaching, and I didn't realize that that was your full studio was online. Do you have any just quick tips for teachers to get students for online teaching? I think teachers tend to think like, oh, I can teach anyone from anywhere, but then it's not so easy to find those anyones. Do you have any quick tips for that?
I mean, social media is a really big tool. I've had a good number of students find me that way. I also have still done in-person recruiting. Like I'll still do some school visits here and there and just go do like some sectionals or some clarinet lessons in the public schools, and the teachers will recommend me. But sometimes people still want online, even if they're just like 30 minutes away, because parents don't really want to drive 30 minutes for a 30-minute lesson and then drive 30 minutes home. So yeah, I have a couple students that are still in person, but even my in-person students a lot of times do like a hybrid model. So if I'm traveling but still teaching, or their parents aren't able to drive them, then we do online as a backup. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of like digital marketing that you can do online, but you can also market in your area and still offer lessons online, I found as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Just find the people near you and then offer them online. I like that, or do the hybrid. Okay, so tell us about your work as a virtual assistant, specifically for musicians. I don't know if I've seen, I'm sure there are other people doing that, but I don't know that I've seen other people offering that specifically for musicians. So what do you do? What are some of the services that you offer for musicians specifically?
So many different things. So the short way to answer that question is that I partner with other musicians to help run their businesses behind the scenes. So they're still doing the things that only they can do, which is the teaching or the performing or composing or whatever it might be. But I'm helping with things that make their businesses run. So that might be social media management, updating their websites, helping with like new student enrollment and communication if it's a studio, helping to manage inboxes and calendars, doing different tech setup, sort of helping with business operations, anything that kind of falls under that umbrella of like administrative, back-end operational kind of work I can help with. And my clients all purchase basically monthly subscriptions of hours. So that gives them a lot of flexibility to delegate what they need month to month, because the packages aren't really fixed services. So depending on the client, the individual task could be like very specific and very niche. It's just kind of what they need done, but that they don't need done specifically by them. And then kind of a bigger picture way of thinking about it is that I'm helping musicians grow their businesses and their revenue by improving their organization, their systems, their efficiency, all of those kinds of things. Part, I'm doing that because I'm just helping them get more done while they are working less because I'm literally doing work for them. And then in part, I'm sort of a thought partner and ally behind the scenes in the back end of their business. So entrepreneurship, right, can get really lonely when you're running a business by yourself. So part of my job, it's not an official service, but part of it is just sort of being a partner behind the scenes so they have someone else that knows what's going on and can relate to the things they're struggling with. They can bounce ideas off of all of those kinds of collaborative things as well.
Nice. And how many hours typically do they hire you for a month? Or is it a pretty wide range?
Yeah, it depends. I would say in part on their workload and then in part on their budget would be the two factors that determine the size package that they go with.
Okay. And I'm sure this is a range too, but what kind of clients do you typically attract? Could it be just an everyday average piano teacher who might be listening today? Or is it more, a superstar musician who has a very busy career and doesn't have time to do their own social media or whatever?
I feel like I have to say all my clients are superstars. But no, it can be anyone or any size business. So I think the most blanket way to describe it is musicians who are more entrepreneurial and running their own small businesses. And that does include a lot of studio owners. But at the same time, it's not always a business as we might traditionally think of it. It's sometimes just solo musicians who, in my opinion, are businesses as well that are starting to need some support. Those would be the clients that usually go with a little bit of a smaller package. And then someone with a bigger business, like a really big studio, might need more hours. But my clients are in all kinds of categories. So there are a lot of studio owners. There are also physical studio owners, like they own the building that people rent and need help. Some of them are coaches, performers, composers, conductors, instrument repair shops, recording labels, chamber ensembles, software developers, specifically in music. So there's a whole range and they sound very different, but a lot of the tasks that they need help with actually have a lot of overlap.
Wow. Have you had to learn some new, musical skills to work with all those different people? Or musical knowledge, I guess.
I think my being a musician is central to what I'm offering to other musicians, which is that there's very minimal training and onboarding when you bring me on board. So I need to get to know my individual clients, their personalities, the way they work, the way their individual business functions and what kind of stage it's at. But a lot of the actual music knowledge, I think, is the advantage of hiring me over a more generic virtual assistant or virtual assistant company who wouldn't know all of the lingo yet and have maybe the network that supports you and all of those kinds of things. So not to say that I'm not learning anything, but there actually is a ton of overlap, even though it's so many different types of clients.
So do musicians typically hire you indefinitely and an ongoing basis, or is it more for a small short-term project?
Yeah, my core offer is definitely ongoing support. And I do think that's the most effective way to go because as I get to know clients and their businesses, I can just be more helpful and I can be more proactive. And there's even less delegating that they have to do before we just get into a groove where I'm just taking certain tasks off their plate on an ongoing basis, and they just don't even have to think about it anymore. So not only does it reduce workload, but it reduces mental load when you bring someone in for the long term that really gets to know your business as well as you do, and you build the trust to where they can just take stuff and run with it. So most of my clients, yes, just have an ongoing monthly subscription. It would only end if they told me that they were ready to discontinue. And otherwise, we assume that it's just ongoing for a while. I do have some shorter term offers that I created recently. So if someone was at the beginning of their business and they needed help with setup, or they have one specific thing they need help with, they just need someone to update their website or maybe set up a studio management software or something like that, then I do have some shorter term packages where you can hire me for anywhere from a week to 6 weeks to do one specific thing. So that's an option that might also work better with some people's budget, but the sort of core of what I do is just long-term partnership with other musicians.
Okay, nice. Tell me, Adela, what are some of your favorite tasks to do? Now, I know you do a wide range of things, but are there some that you think I could do this all day, every day?
Yes, sometimes that changes based on my mood. I would say if I'm having a day where I do feel really creative, then I do love doing the social media management and the brainstorming and content creation aspects. But then I'll have weeks where I just feel like my brain is kind of fried on marketing, and maybe that's not what I'm the most excited about. And then I think just anything that's really digging into the back end systems of a business and just making it operate more smoothly and get more organized and feel more efficient, that to me is really satisfying. Like, for example, to get a teacher set up with a studio management software that hadn't previously had one, and all of a sudden they see that like literally everything can be automated. Or to get someone set up with a project management software. So now they have one clean visual setup with everything they need to do in their business over the course of an entire year. Those kinds of things are really satisfying. They make the client's life easier. They also make my life easier in supporting that client. And yeah, anything involved in just sort of like really digging in and building a business is always really exciting to me.
I have to say, you must be so organized because you have to know all these different platforms. You have to know all these different businesses. Like, how do you keep all of that straight? I can barely keep my stuff straight, like my one platform that I'm using and my one, Instagram account, whatever. How do you keep it all straight?
It is a little crazy. Yeah, I have I think about 20 recurring clients right now. So that means that at any given day, I'm pivoting between 20 businesses that I work in, plus my own, I guess, is 21. And it sounds like a lot, and it is, but also they've come to me gradually. So I've sort of gotten to know, like I only have one or two new people at a time that I'm getting to know them and their technology and their systems and everything. So it's a little less overwhelming because it's been gradual. And then also as I start to like take things over and set things up for them, then I do know it really well because I built it. And if I get to choose the technology, even better, because then I use my favorite tools and I don't have to learn anything new at all. I personally live out of Notion. My entire business is in Notion. Every client has a section and a to-do list and a drive folder that corresponds. And yeah, I do have slightly like psychotic levels of organization in my own business, I would say. But I don't think I would survive if I didn't.
Yeah, for sure. So my guess is that one of the biggest barriers for teachers to hire someone like you is the budget, which you mentioned. They think that they can't afford a VA. How would you respond to that, and what advice would you give them?
I guess my first initial question is, can you afford not to? And sometimes the answer might be yes when someone is sort of at the beginning of their business and they're still really getting it going. But I think once you're starting to think that you might need help, it's probably already too late and you could have actually hired earlier. So when you're a business of one, and I think I'm even starting to experience this, like I am probably going to need help soon, you start to become your own bottleneck once your business is succeeding, because now your capacity is you and the hours that you have in a day. And we all have a limit on that. But if you can start to delegate some tasks that are important and have to get done, but don't directly bring in revenue, then you're freeing up space in your schedule to do more of the work that is going to like directly increase your income and really move the needle on your business. So for example, if we're talking about studio teachers, right, you get paid when you teach a lesson, for example. You don't necessarily get paid when you're doing all of the work that goes into like scheduling and putting on a recital, or sending out a newsletter monthly or weekly, if that's something that you do, or answering emails, rescheduling makeup lessons with students, right? Those things don't directly bring in income, but you do have to do them to run your business. So if you can delegate all of those things, and now you have 5 hours back in your week and you can teach those 5 hours, now you're actually making more money. So my goal when I work with someone really is to pay for myself, because if I'm helping their business increase their revenue with the work that I'm doing, then the investment is not just money lost, it's actually helping to grow your business faster because you have more hours to work with in a day.
Mm-hmm. And have you seen that happen where your clients are paying for you and beyond with the growth of their business?
Yes, I believe so. A lot of them see increased revenue sort of within that first year of working together because of those exact reasons, right? It frees up time for them to be able to do more of the bigger work. And then also just, I think, helps people avoid burnout, right? So if you're working 12 hours a day and you just never stop and you don't have any help and your entire business lives in your head and no one else can possibly understand, it's really easy to just work yourself to the point of exhaustion and be so burnt out that you're like, can I even do this anymore? And I also think if you're a performer and you have no time to practice, that's probably a problem. Or if you're a teacher and you're losing your spark for teaching, your students are probably going to feel that. And so even if hiring help just like improves your mental state and helps you feel more love for what you're doing again, because you're avoiding burnout, even that is going to have a financial return, even though it might not be the first result that you see.
Yes, I 1,000% agree. That's so wise, such wisdom coming from you. I am curious, what are some of the common mistakes you see music teachers making on the business side of things, maybe beyond what we've already talked about?
Yes. So as an overarching answer, I think a combination of overthinking and undercharging are patterns, not even just teachers, but I think in a lot of musicians. But yeah, I think a lot of times, I mean, we all know like this is a common topic of conversation today, I think, right? That like a lot of business skills aren't really taught in music degrees. And then we all graduate and realize that we need them to figure out what we're doing. And so I think a lot of times performers and teachers don't really develop like systems or templates or repeatable processes for things because they're just maybe functioning in a way that's more reactive. Like a gig comes and you take it, a student comes, you enroll them, and you just kind of figure it out each time and maybe reinvent the wheel a little bit each time. Whereas if you have like really solid policies and then you just have template responses when someone is trying to question them, there's less decision making and less thinking. You just are responding consistently every time. Same thing with a recital, right? Once you do it once, if you write out every step, then every time that part of the semester comes up, you have a checklist to just follow. And when you take out some of the overthinking and decision making that comes with that, again, you can reduce your mental load and your decision fatigue, and things just feel easier. And also, when they take less time and are more efficient, again, you have more space back for other things. So, yeah, I think along with that, the undercharging is a big piece because if you're not really charging what you're worth, and then you're also spending way longer than you should be on those tasks that, like I said before, are not directly bringing in revenue, those things are combining to work against you. But if you charge your worth and you're confident in that, and then you do everything else consistently and build a business that's, just full of repeatable processes, then I think those two things can just make the whole business side feel a lot more manageable.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we think of our teaching rate in terms of I'm getting paid for this 1 hour. And so, $100 an hour, that seems like a lot to ask people to pay me. And we think that they're going to think that's a lot, $100 an hour. And we don't think, and maybe the parents don't think about all of those other tasks that we do that we don't get paid for per hour. We're not getting $100 an hour to do our social media or send out emails or respond to the 5 emails that parent sent that week, right? And so there's a lot more than just that 1 hour of teaching.
Yeah. So I think for me, if I feel like I'm being underpaid or not being paid fairly, I actually start to resent the work that I'm doing. But that's not fair, right? If you set your own rates, then you should set a rate that doesn't make you feel that way, because that comes across to people, I think. And then that's actually going to hurt your business in the long term if it's turning people away. So I think if you also just feel more stable in what you're charging, then your attitude towards things can improve. And then if you're actually providing a better customer service experience because you're not overwhelmed, you're not burnt out, and you're not feeling underpaid, then again, that's going to turn into more success for your business in the long term. So I think that is actually really important, not only because we just deserve to make good money, but also because it improves the experience of working with you for everyone involved.
Yes, absolutely. I talk about that a lot, that you don't want to, and I talk about it more with gigs. Like you don't want to play a gig if you're going to feel resentful of how little you're getting paid, right? Same thing with teaching. Yeah. I should have asked you before we started, but are you okay talking about AI and how it might be affecting your business? Okay. Do you see it as a positive or a negative? It's a hot topic right now. I know I've heard both sides from teachers, but I'm curious what your opinion is.
Yes. Generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan. I definitely have seen ways that it can be a useful tool for business owners. But at the same time, I think the impacts on the environment, on the communities that are near the data centers, even just on like our own ability to think critically and creatively. I don't know yet that I feel that the benefits outweigh all of those things. I don't think I do. I did at one point have a conversation with a client where she told me before I was hired that she wasn't really sure how a virtual assistant and AI were any different. And my answer is that I'm a human, which you think was obvious, but
obvious.
I think, like I said before, part of my value add to music businesses is that I am a musician. And sure, you can train AI. That's not ever going to be quite the same as another person that understands what it's like to perform, what it's like to teach, what it's like to need practice time in your schedule. And I just don't think that AI can really replace that value. And then I also think working with humans, right? Like, yes, I do just admin work for my clients, but I'm also like celebrating them with them when their business is successful. I'm venting with them when a parent or student or client is driving them crazy. Right, we're like joking about funny parent and student emails and things that happen. We're sharing each other's networks, which I think we all know in music, who you know is really important. I send them cute pictures of my dogs if they're having a bad day. And you just can't get all of that from AI. So while it might be useful in some areas, I just don't really think it even can compete with human support.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really I don't know, a really good take on it. And I think that yeah, I have mixed feelings about it too. I think that there are definitely some things that it is fantastic for. And I think that there's a lot of ways that we're abusing it, and there's the potential to abuse it, especially with the younger generation. I don't want them to lose their ability to think on their own. So, are there things, putting AI a little aside, are there things that teachers should be automating that you see them not automating? It might not be AI necessarily, but just automations in billing, or what do you think?
I think the biggest one, and maybe the most obvious one, is billing. There are all kinds of softwares that will automatically send your invoices, collect your payments, and directly deposit them into your bank account. You can also automate payment reminders and late fees. So you can really do a lot with that instead of manually trying to chase those down from parents. Another one I think is, even if you have individual tasks that can't be automated, you might be able to just automate like reminders for yourself. So if there's something that you do at the same time every year, you can put that on your calendar so it pops up and tells you. Or if you're using a project management software, you can plug in reminders for things like that so that you don't have to think of them. And so that's not quite the same as automating the actual task and getting it done, but it does relieve a lot of mental load if you can just plug it in somewhere and then know that it's going to pop up and you don't have to be thinking about it and remembering it by yourself every year or every month or whatever, however often that task occurs. So that's a trick that I really like as well.
Yes, that's one of my goals for the summer, is to have a document where I outline what happens each month of the year and what I do that month. And then I'm assuming it's going to take me a full year to actually like perfect the document, because I have to live it. But I'm going to try and get it all set up this summer so that I have it, and then I can kind of tweak it as the next year rolls around, because there are so many things that I do the same every December. And then I forget and have to think about it again the next December. I'm like, oh yeah, that happens every mid-December.
Yeah, I literally did this in my studio this month. I was like, shoot, I haven't even put my spring recital on the calendar yet. I need to do that. So that's one of those things that like I went back and set up for myself. I need to remember to just do that at the beginning of the semester so people mark their calendars, because if I do it every year, why am I waiting until the month of, until it dawns on me it has to happen? Like, there's no need for the scramble.
Yes. Okay, because I like to be practical on this podcast, would you like to share, do you have a favorite billing scheduling software? And I'll share my favorite too, but I want to give you the chance to share if you have a favorite one that you recommend.
So I use my music staff in my own studio, and I do love my music staff. I also recently started working with Studio Kit, which is a newer platform, and that seems like it's going to be a really great one as well. They have something new coming out this summer that's going to be great, but I don't think I can say yet.
Okay, that's okay.
But yeah, those two are both wonderful.
Okay, I use Fonz in the conservatory that I run, and I love that they automate the payments and they send the reminders if the credit card doesn't go through or whatever, they send multiple reminders. And usually by the third or fourth reminder, the parent's like, okay, I got to take care of this. And then I don't ever have to step in. Occasionally, there have been like maybe a couple of times when I've had to step in and send an actual email from me that says, hey, we got to figure this out, or sometimes the parent will reach out and say, like, what do I need to do to take care of this? But I love that everything is just automatically done. I don't even have to set up the automatic email reminders. It just does it. So I love it.
Yeah, it's game changing. I mean, there's probably like nothing that you'll be able to like fully not involve yourself in ever, but it still is a big difference for that to be the exception rather than the rule in terms of workload. Yeah.
Yes. So speaking of practical, is there one thing that music teachers could do today or this week that would help streamline the business side of their studio?
Yes. Okay. I have 3 actually.
Okay, perfect.
So the first one, we just talked about studio management softwares, and I think that's the most obvious one. If you aren't already using a studio management software, that's something that I would definitely recommend starting with for making your studio easier to run. I would say also we do a lot of emailing, right? When we're enrolling new students or having issues with parents or not having issues, but just having conversations with students and parents. If there are any emails that you find yourself sending a lot, you can just save them as a template. I love doing that right in Gmail. And then just using that and customizing it a little bit will save you a lot more time than you might think. And then my third one is just starting to build a database of SOPs. So standard operating procedures. So for example, student enrollment. You probably have a process that you do every time you bring in a new student. But if you're trying to remember all those steps every time, then I would recommend next time you do it, write them all down. I think I said this before with a recital. And then every time you have a new student coming in, you just have to go through that checklist and not worry that you forgot something important in the setup process or that you didn't give them some important piece of information or something like that. So with teachers, I think, enrollment, maybe student offboarding might be something that you could write out. Probably recital planning would be another one, and just starting to have those so that every time you do one of those things, you're just going through a checklist and not having to think so much. Creating SOPs is also great if you think that you might eventually hire help in your studio, whether that's me or someone else, because then when you need someone to do something, you're just handing that document over and just saying, here, follow these steps. You don't have to actually explain it. So it makes the training and onboarding process a lot easier if you ever do decide to make a hire.
Yeah, those are great. I love those. And sometimes with the SOPs, you can also do like a quick video, like you can video your screen or something. If it's something on the computer where you're like, I do this and this and this and this and this, it can help to have a little video attached with your SOP.
Yeah, exactly. And someone can just follow.
Yes, exactly. So tell us exactly what services you offer for music teachers and how they could connect with you if they want to learn more.
Yes. So like I said before, my sort of main offer is the ongoing VA support. So that's basically a monthly subscription of a package of hours. It's ongoing administrative help. It covers a wide range of tasks. And because it's time-based and not project-based, it's very flexible depending on exactly what it is that you need done. If you're not looking to make a long-term hire, then I have a few other options. So one is the 7-day support sprint. So just like it sounds like, this would be 7 days of help focused on one specific project. So for example, I just had someone book this a few weeks ago, and we just spent a week like revamping her website. We just did that one thing for 7 days, and then that was done. So there's no long-term commitment with that. I also have a music business reset service that's 4 weeks long. And that would be if you have an existing business, but you just need help like organizing and cleaning up the back end. So like you heard that SOP idea and liked it, but feel like you don't have the time to create them, I can build that for you. Or you want to set up a studio management software, I can do that for you. Or a project management software to keep track of your business. So I would do kind of like some cleanup and some building in the background for you, but only for that 4 weeks. And then I would hand it back and it's all yours again. And then kind of similar is a business systems setup service. So that's 6 weeks. And that would be for someone who's kind of in the early stages and wants to have all of those things in place at the very beginning. I can help with a lot of the setup and building. So you're starting from a really solid foundation. But again, like maybe it's early in your business and so you don't want to commit to having to pay for help every single month. So we just do that as a one-time service and then it's all yours. So those are the sort of main options. And if anyone wants to find out more, my website is adellacarlsonstudios.com, or you can even just send me a DM on Instagram if you want to chat more casually. It would just be at the musician's assistant.
The musician's assistant. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Adella. I learned a lot today, and I think that listeners are really going to enjoy hearing this and hearing how you help music teachers be more organized and set up all of their systems. So thank you for being here. This was a great chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode with Adella. I would encourage you to write down one action step from this episode that you want to do this week. If you were like me, sometimes you listen to a podcast and get all fired up about something and then forget it an hour later. But I think this one is important, and I want you to think about what you can do to make your business life easier and more streamlined. If you need some accountability, you are welcome to send me a DM on Instagram at Rachel Airing and tell me what your action step is. I shared during the episode that I'm planning to get my SOPs set up this summer, so feel free to ask me in the coming months how that is going. And if you aren't yet part of the Top Music Pro community, that is an amazing place to get support and get help with all the different sides of your teaching business, from the tactical things that we talked about today to the pedagogy support that you might need as well. If you've been putting off joining, this is a great time to join. I know that Tim is constantly working on exciting new things inside the membership, so you don't want to miss out on what's coming up soon. All right, that's the end of the show for this week. I'm Rachel Airing, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. I will talk with you again next week.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support, and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.